the bloody by-election there in 2019 are still nursing injuries 4 years on without compensation.
After the expiration of the 30 days mandatory period, we shall proceed to court, sue the Attorney General on the back of the Emily Short Commission's work, which recommends that the 5 persons should be compensated.
And later, we'll bring you the latest on Nigeria's elections as Labour Party's Peter Obi wins big in Lagos State. Meanwhile, the ECOWAS Election Observer Group has confirmed incidences of violence and deaths during the polls. Details shortly. A pleasure that you could be a part of this afternoon's bulletin. I am Eric Mawina Egbert. I will settle for the details shortly, but we're streaming live on Facebook, the handle 3FM 927, on Twitter as well, the handle 3FM 927. Let's get to the details. And the 3 individual groups who are strongly opposed government's domestic debt exchange program are this afternoon meeting the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, in anticipation of a planned payment of some matured bonds. The Individual Bondholders Association of Ghana, the Individual Bondholders Forum and the Pensioner Bondholders Forum are all demanding payment of their bonds, some of which matured on February 7, 14 and 21. Shortly, we'll get on the phone and speak to Martin Kebu, who speaks for the Individual Bondholders Association of Ghana as to the latest with regards to that meeting. But as you know it, government has concluded its domestic debt exchange program. Ended that in the month of February, and there have been conversations as to debt forgiveness in China. That has been postponed to the ending of the month of March. But for the individual bondholders, most of whom did not partake in the domestic debt exchange program, they are asking that their matured bonds be paid them. Dr. Edouard Anientri is the convener of the Pensioner Bondholders Forum. They're one of the groups meeting the Finance Minister. He's joined us on phone this afternoon. Many thanks, Doc, for speaking to us this afternoon. So really, what is this meeting with the Finance Minister about?
Well, thank you very much. It's just to find out what is happening. Coupons and principal payments that has to be made on bonds that matured on the 6th and on the 20th. No payment have been made, and we haven't heard a word from the minister after the promise that after settlement day, the payments were going to be made on the 21st. Today is 27th. We haven't heard anything, and all individual bondholders are complaining. And so we have to come and find out what is happening from the ministry. And so that's why we are here in the coalition form.
What has the Finance Minister been telling you is reason behind the delay?
We still haven't been able to meet them. We are still waiting the minister's reception.
A reason as to the delay?
And we are still waiting for them to finish for us to meet the minister.
But you mentioned that government said it was awaiting settlement dates to be able to provide your funds to you. What, in your estimation, are ideal timelines going into this meeting for government to make these payments?
Well, settlement date has passed. That was Monday. And by Tuesday, which was 21st, government should have paid. And that promise was also given by the minister that after the settlement, payment will be made on 21st. And 21st has gone past. And we haven't gotten any information from the minister. So we don't know what is happening, what is holding, what is holding this payment back. So we come to find out what the matter is.
there still is confidence on your part that government will honor these payments?
Well, it's only when we meet the minister that we will know. But we still have to hope that government, the issuer must abide by its obligation to bond holders. So we would insist that those obligations of the issuer is always complied with. If government has something to say, he has every right to say what is holding it from meeting the demands of investors. So when we meet the minister, then we will know what the problems are. That for investors, their coupon and principal are due. And so they expect government to pay.
Right then, Doc, I'm sure we'll come back to you later on when you're done meeting the minister. Okay. That's Dr. Edouard Anientri. He's a convener of the Pensioner Bondholders Forum. Says that they're still waiting to meet the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, as he's currently engaged in other meetings. We'll return to this particular conversation as and when there's a lot more for you here on 3FM. But away from that, the Ghana Education Service says it has come to its attention that some heads of second cycle institutions are issuing unapproved prospectuses and also selling some of the items on the prospectus to Form 1 students. He also noted that some heads are selling free items that are supplied by the government to the student. The GS, in a statement cited by Prince Charles Ajimandia, Acting Director, Schools and Instructions Division, says it takes strong exception to the practice, which it says is prohibited and must cease with immediate effect. It said investigations will soon commence into the issues to ensure that the right things are done in schools, while cautioning heads of schools, second cycle schools, to stick to the approved harmonized prospectus for students. My colleague Ibrahim Abubakar, he's been checking on the issue of prospectus in the Ashanti region. He joins us via phone. So Ibrahim, talk to us as to exactly what you've been finding out.
Well, Mauna, I was engaging with parents about the prospectus. In fact, since last week, most of them have been pouring out their anger, their frustration, because for most of them, they believe that the government has introduced a free senior high school policy, which is to say that parents will no longer have to spend huge sums of money to educate their wards when they enter the senior high school. Now they've been given bills of some have to spend 3,000, 4,000 just to be able to buy prospectus for their children to get to school. So it means that if you don't have that financial strength to buy all these items, then your child may be in danger or whatsoever going to school. In fact, this morning, as the first years begin to report to the various schools, I also went round to see how parents have been able to gather all the prospectus for them. For some of the parents, they have managed to buy 80% of them, hoping that they will plead with the headmasters to accept their children so that later when they get enough money, they will buy the remaining of them. For others too, they are still frustrated because they do not understand why some schools that do not have any reading environment would demand for catalysts every year, would demand. In fact, some of the prospectors that I saw, I wouldn't mention the school, we have a cost for MOA. Each child is paying 50 cedis for MOA, which is a bit of weird. People are already buying catalysts, they are presenting holes, they are bringing a lot of items,
and they're still being asked to pay for
MOA to the list of items. And it's a burden, financial burden on a lot of parents. And we know GS has issued that statement that you read, but parents are saying, how would they be able to differentiate between approved and unapproved items unless, of course, GES bring out a list of approved items so that when you buy them or you do not buy them, you can be able to justify why you buy A, why you did not buy B. But if you just issue a statement and say school should not take unapproved items, that will be difficult for parents to be able to identify which items are approved, which ones are not approved.
Ibrahim, just briefly, has there been a case or a scenario where parents have been turned away with the award because they didn't fulfill all the obligations in the prospectus?
Well, personally, I've not met anyone who has been turned away. In fact, most of the schools I visited, because it was early in the morning, they came there going through the registration, hoping that the headmasters will agree. In fact, for schools like Prempe, where I saw some of them who came without the 100% prospectus, they were allowed, the children were allowed to register, and parents assured that they will bring the remaining items later. So personally, I have not been to any school that has seen a parent or a child being turned away because of that.
Right, so that's my colleague Ibrahim Abubakar in the Ashanti region for us following the development. From education, we'll do politics now because the Ayawaso West Wuogon is fast becoming a melting pot of political activity. In the last 24 hours, it's been in the top trends on social media following an announcement by actor John Dumelo to return to contest the primaries there. On Twitter, many have been reacting to John Dumelo's post in which he declared he had to return to the constituency upon consultation with the party, his family, and well-wishers there. Joining me in studio, my colleague Komla Adom, who's been taking a look at development in Ayawaso and the reactions on social media after John Dumelo's announcement. So, Komla, let's start off with John Dumelo. He had been thought to be vying for the South seat. How did we get here?
So, Mawina, we know John Dumelo contested the 2020 elections, faced off with Lydia Al-Hassan, wife of then-sitting MP Chairman Jako. A by-election happened. Lydia Al-Hassan became the representative of the MPP. That election was keenly contested. In fact, John Dumelo lost that election by just about 2,000 votes. And I remember at the time he had raised questions about the counting process and some irregularities that had occasioned at the time and demanded a recount, etc., etc. And so there was the expectation. Many political watchers knew that he may give it another shot. But then we saw a few months later that he was preparing the grounds in the Sancho Kofi, Akpafulolobi, Likpe area where he had been big. In 2021, 2022, he was visiting the place often. He was initiating projects there. In fact, sometime on November 7, he launched an operation codenamed Feed Ourselves, focusing on some food crops like onions, tomatoes, potatoes, and he said that people must grow what they eat. And so he was big in Sao, and so everybody thought that he was going to represent the people of Sao. In fact, he had spoken about ambitions,
interest and all
in the past. So it was quite surprising that he had beat a retreat and now returns to Ayawaso West Wuogon, and that is coming at an interesting moment. And I'm sure you'll be asking about it.
Yes, because a colleague of his in the movie industry, actor Fred Nyoma, picked forms for the same Ayawaso Wuogon on the ticket of the NDC. So how do we marry? So
that is going to be an interesting matchup because many political watchers are already looking at the expectations. Many are pitching John Dumelo as a candidate who is stronger and could face off with a familiar foe in Lydia Al-Hassan because he's been there before. He knows the terrain so well. He's been doing a lot of campaigning there. But then also we know Fred Nyoma is his good friend. Both of them are actors. In fact, we understand that Fred Nyoma was his best man during his wedding. And so it is playing up some controversies on that tangent. But the political watchers feel that at some point, Fred Nyoma will have to concede and allow John Dumelo to go ahead because, as John mentioned yesterday, he had taken this decision because his party had engaged him extensively and he had taken into consideration all the calls from the party, the constituency, and all his other family to take another shot at the Ayawaso West Wuogon seat. So it will be interesting, and in the coming days, we'll be having a major pronouncement, according to information from the party, whether Fred Nyoma will step aside and give the leeway to John Dumelo to go ahead, or they will still slag it out and see who wins and then faces off with Lydia Al-Hassan in 2024.
Right, and that's my colleague Komla Adom, and like he mentioned, the coming days would be interesting, but we'll stay in the constituency a while longer because it's been 4 years since the bloody by-elections there left 5 NDC activists injured. Even though a commission of inquiry recommended payment of compensation, the victims are yet to receive any monies. Their lawyers say they would be forced to sue the state if a 30-day ultimatum issued by the party expires in a couple of days. Komla Adom went to meet some of the victims who are still struggling to recover from the damaging injuries.
It's been 4 years. Years of pain and trauma for NDC activists who were badly injured when hooded men believed to be national security operatives opened fire into a crowd that day at Bawaleshi. When I visited one of the victims, Ishao Yaro, in 2020, he could not walk. It's now been 4 years since the incident. He says not much has changed.
Still don't pay any minano because meta I saw minano up to now from year to year. Now the pay no name.
There is a metal caliper inserted. I cannot walk. My feet get swollen under the least pressure.
The 5 victims are still nursing wounds. One of them is now bedridden with stroke.
There was one who, to me, can be considered as a vegetable. Virtually, he, after the shooting incident, got a stroke.
Despite the Emil Short Commission of Inquiry's recommendations, including payment of compensation, government is yet to implement same.
Since now, Adiano, SCNO, NDC now, I'm taking care of me. John Dramani, Mahama, any former chairman, Mr. Fosu Ampofo, I'm taking care of me.
Director of Legal Affairs of the NDC, Abraham Amaleba, says the Attorney General has been insensitive to the plight of the victims.
As lawyers, we wanted to know the basis upon which they were pegging the figures or the amounts that they were about to pay them. Because each of them had various degrees of injuries, and you cannot give all of them the same amount. So this has been like 2 years now since the Attorney General has been given these documents for him to proceed to pay the victims.
Former Minister of State in charge of National Security, Brian Echampong, appeared to feign ignorance. This was his response when he was pushed by a minority member on the Appointments Committee on the matter.
It should never have happened. And if indeed is injured, then I think that the state should do something about it.
Lawyer for the victim says the account given by the former minister was insincere.
If Brian is sincere to himself and actually wanted to see these victims and help them out, he would have done so. I do not think that he is sincere in what he's saying. It's just for the camera because he was at the vetting committee. Largely, this government does not feel remorse about what transpired in Ayawas to West Wuogon.
Security analyst Adib Sani is not surprised nothing has been done 4 years on.
I knew from the onset that it was just a political gimmick because there was absolutely no commitment.
Lawyers for the victims say they will be forced to sue the Attorney General if the 30-day ultimatum issued by the party for payment of a compensation expires.
After the expiration of the 30 days mandatory period, if he fails to act, we shall proceed to court, sue the Attorney General on the back of the Emil Short Commission work, which recommends that the 5 persons should be compensated.
Abraham Amaleba ending that report by my colleague Komla Adom. You're listening to the news here on 3FM 92.7. We're streaming live on Facebook. Our handle's 3FM 927. And we return to education now because the National Union of Ghana Student NUG says it has received numerous complaints from students about the non-payment of student loans. A statement from NUGS lamented that monies from last semester have also not been paid amid the ongoing economic condition which is affecting student education. Dennis Apia Labiampovu, he's the president of the National Union of Ghana Students, and he signed that statement. We'll try and get him on the phone as and when we're able to bring his thoughts and perspective to you as to exactly what the concerns are as received from students and whether or not they've got any responses from the Secretariat responsible, the Student Loan Trust Fund Secretariat as well. But while we wait, the Ghana Health Service will begin community engagement in some areas, particularly here in Accra around Odroko in an attempt to mobilize to ascertain the host of the Lassa fever. The Ghana Health Service confirmed 2 cases of the fever, with 1 confirmed dead and another hospitalized. All cases are in Accra. The Ghana Health Service, in a statement on Sunday, said 56 contacts had been identified and are being followed. Lassa fever is a viral hemorrhagic fever which is endemic in Benin, Ghana, Guinea, Liberia, Mali, Sierra Leone, and Nigeria. And the country here, Ghana, recorded its first case in 2011. Director of Public Health, Dr. Franklin Esidu-Bekwin, who spoke to 3FM, said effective measures, including storing grain and other foodstuff in rodent-proof containers, disposing of garbage far from the home, and maintaining clean households and keeping cats could prevent the virus.
So basically, transmission is 2 ways. So from animal to man, and then man to man. So now what you are doing is you are doing the man-to-man transmission, whereby identifying the contact. So we are looking at the close associations of the first case. Also looking at the health facilities that the case went. And those are the contacts that we are tracking. For now, we are able to identify 66. We are still ongoing, so I'm sure we'll get more. So what we are doing is that on a daily basis, our team gets in touch with this contact. So far, it's only one of the contacts that we see. What we're trying to do is, where is the host? And by virtue of the livelihood of the case, is a trader used to buy this yam and then come and sell the yam on the pavement in Odoko. So we are mobilizing a team to actually visit these areas to see whether we can demonstrate the presence of this host before the customers.
That's Dr. Esidu-Bekwin speaking. There is the Director of Public Health, Dr. Franklin Esidu-Bekwin. Away from this, and with an ever-increasing youthful population, the Ghanaian youth have harbored the thought of being represented in Parliament by members who can relate to them and their struggles. It appears the 2024 elections may provide that opportunity on a larger scale, but questions are being asked on sustaining the quality of MPs in Parliament when that happens. It follows also closely in relation to the NDC's parliamentary nominations, which have been picked by quite youthful individuals. Dr. Rashid Draman, he's the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. You join us on phone pretty shortly with some details. But you're listening to the news here on 3FM 92.7. We're streaming live on Facebook as well. Our handles 3FM 927 on Twitter, streaming as well 3FM 927. And on YouTube as well, 3FM 927. And so the conversation as to whether or not the 2024 general elections will be an opportunity for the youth to partake. Dr. Rashid Draman has joined us on phone. Many thanks, Doc, for speaking to us. So the wave of very young individuals wanting to pick up the opportunity to represent their constituencies has been seen quite strongly, with the nominations being picked for the NDC. But how do we marry this with policy making and the business of Parliament, which is quite different from a lot of the messaging that these individuals give to their constituents?
Yeah, I think it's a challenge. Every 4 years, as soon as parties open nominations, we see a kind of mad rush for young people, and for that matter, new entrants, not only young people, I have to correct myself, trying to get into Parliament. And it's, in my view, based on at least what I know over the years, and based on what MPs themselves have said, I think it's mostly as a result of the fact that our Parliament is married to the executive. And because of that, most of these people who are in a rush to get into Parliament, majority of them do so mainly because they want to use that as an avenue to get executive appointment. truth be told, in our country, our constitution is not very clear in terms of who.
Hello, Doc.
Oh yeah. So in terms of
So we're speaking to Dr. Rashid Draman.
Hello?
Yes, Doc, I can hear you now.
Yes. In terms of our constitution, it's not too clear about what qualification you need to go into parliament. In some countries, this is legislated so that there is clarity. You need a university degree, you need a high school degree, and so on. Our country doesn't have that. You just have to be of zero criminal record and so on and so forth. And then you qualify to go into parliament. So if you lose a lot of people who have experience over the years in the house, and then you get a lot of new people who come in, and you end up with, for instance, people who don't have very high qualifications, then the policy-making process, the legislative process becomes quite daunting for these categories of people. Because even if you have the highest degree in a particular field, the work of the legislature is such that every single day they are dealing with different issues.
Right then.
I mean, you need some basic education. And indeed, I would even add that you need a higher level of education in order to contribute meaningfully to the legislative process.
Right then,
so
Doc.
If you have, yes.
Unfortunately, we'll have to end the conversation here. I appreciate that you could speak to us this afternoon. That's Dr. Rashid Draman. He's the Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, speaking to us. We're taking you to Nigeria now, where presidential candidate on the ticket of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has won the most votes in the commercial hub of Lagos State. Obi got 582,454 votes, just ahead of 572,606 votes for former Lagos Governor Bola Ahmed Tinubu for the governing All Progressive Congress. Meanwhile, the ECOWAS Observer Mission says the Nigerian polls was characterized by violence and deaths in some parts. Head of the ECOWAS Observer Mission, Enes Bai Kurama, has been addressing a news conference.
I encourage the Independent National Electoral Commission to ensure the conduct of a free, fair, and credible election, urge the political parties and candidates to enhance their voter sensitization and mobilization campaign, and encourage the Nigerians voting, vote count, and tallying.
That's Enes Bai Koroma. Let's go on to Zoom now and speak to Abdul Latif Ahmed. He's head of research and monitoring desk at News Central. Abdul Latif, talk to us. Results have been trickling in thick and fast, but there have been challenges of some of these results as well. Exactly what's happening?
Yeah, it's been an interesting development so far. We've had shocks and surprise votes in some parts of the country, particularly the results that we have in Lagos. That is the home state of the ruling party. And then the flag bearer of the APC was won by Peter Obi, who is the flag bearer of the Labour Party. Again, this has shown that the disenchantment of the youth, a lot of Nigerians who have felt left out and burnt by the economic policies of the government, are taking it out on the government, and this is showing in the patterns of the voting. Again, there's an upset in Kano, commercial capital of Nigeria, northern Nigeria, where the NNPP is also taking the lead, one of the four parties in this race. However, the NNPP has also made inroads into Kaduna, which is one of the states that the ruling party relies on to secure votes. But in the moment, the ruling party has won a state in the southwest, It has won Oyo State. It has won Ogun State. And it hopes to win more states. In any case, the major upset in the Federal Capital Territory was also Labour Party beating an all-time Senator Philip Aduda, who has represented, the Abuja for a very long time. He's been the senator representing that constituency, I think, since 1999.
Right.
By and large, that is what we have so far.
Right, Abdul Latif, we'll come back to you subsequently for some more, but many thanks for speaking to us. That's Abdul Latif Ahmed. He's head of research and monitoring desk at News Central. That's it for this afternoon's edition of the news here on 3FM 92.7. Sani Abdul Rahman, he's on standby to bring us the very latest from the world of business. I am Eric Mawina